Is it strictly necessary to stop playing tennis or golf when you have tennis elbow? Or is it sometimes okay to play through it if you're careful? And if you do take time off to focus on healing, when is it safe to start playing again? This is Alan Willett, your tennis elbow tutor. And these are two questions I'm very often asked by my golf and tennis playing patients and self-help program members. Well, the good news is, although it's probably wiser to take time off, it is entirely possible to keep playing and still recover with two caveats. The first being, as long as your injury isn't too severe, and the second being that you do the right things to treat it in the process. So in the spirit of helping you continue to play, I have 5 key guidelines for you. And if you need or decide to rest and you wonder when you can start playing again, I have some suggestions for you on that too after the 5 tips. First of all, you're probably wondering, isn't it a given that you should stop playing and rest when you have tennis elbow? Many authorities say you have to rest your injury so it can heal, leading you to believe it's a predetermined conclusion. But this often stems from a misunderstanding about the nature of the injury. It's not a given for everyone. Please see my post and podcast on how important is rest when it comes to healing tennis elbow. It goes into detail about why absolute rest is probably not the answer for most tennis elbow sufferers. In brief, there's no guarantee healing will happen in a tendon or ligament when it's given complete rest from all activity, even for months on end. Yes, as a general rule, it's usually a good idea to stop the activity that caused your injury for a while, or at least reduce the time you spend doing it. But although it may be the smartest thing to do, it's not always necessary. It is possible to recover from mild and sometimes moderate golfers and tennis elbow injuries while continuing to play. Obviously, there's still the question of where to draw the line when it comes to severity, which leads us to our first guideline. Don't play if you have a severe injury. Naturally, your first consideration has to be how severe your injury is. If you have a more severe injury or it's extremely painful at the moment, you may need to take time off from playing. If you know for a fact you have a fairly serious injury, you've had an MRI or ultrasonic scan, for example, and there's a significant tear or moderate to severe tendinosis is visible, that's a deal killer. But lacking a good scan, it can be really challenging to determine how severe your injury really is, because the symptoms don't necessarily correlate with the severity. Minor injuries sometimes hurt like hell, and severe ones are sometimes deceptively low on the pain scale. Symptoms are all you have to go on though, so just be sure to pay attention to how strong or weak your grip and your wrist feels, and not just how much it hurts. Just the same, if it's so flared up it's hurting while you're walking around, driving, or doing simple light tasks around the house or office, then playing tennis is probably going to aggravate it further, and you may have to at least wait for it to calm down. But please don't make the mistake of just popping a few painkillers or anti-inflammatories and playing as if nothing was wrong. In the case of a more severe injury, you may have to wait months, but if it's simply a bad flare-up of a milder injury, you may just need a few days or a week or so. Now, guideline number 2, you got to make a choice here. Continue playing or recover faster. It's one or the other. When I treat a tennis player or golfer in my office for the first time, I'm invariably asked, do I need to stop playing? I answer their question rather impolitely with one of my own, which is a higher priority to you, recovering as quickly as possible with the lowest chances of re-injury, or being able to continue playing, even if it takes longer to recover. You got to know your priorities. Pick one, live with the consequences of it, because you probably can't have both. All things being equal, the player who takes time off will likely recover faster and have less chances of worsening their injury than the one who doesn't. But I'm sure you know better than I do that the one who keeps playing will have a lot more fun, and the one who stops will probably be down in the dumps, especially if it's perfect golf or tennis weather. Still, the bottom line is, how you treat your injury trumps most other factors, including whether you play or rest. So that's your leverage, in my opinion and experience. And more on that later. Okay, number 3, stop playing if it hurts significantly. How it feels when you're playing, swinging that racket or club, is what matters most, and what you really want to pay the most attention to. How it feels when you're doing daily tasks requiring minor effort is not what you should focus on. Yeah, it's probably going to be stiff and achy in the morning, sore throughout the day, and it may give you the occasional sharp twinge when you grab or twist something. That's absolutely typical and par for the course. And unless it really ramps up in intensity and hurts a lot with every little thing you do, you don't really want to pay too much attention to it or overreact to it. Those symptoms come and go without necessarily having any immediate correlation to your progress and what's really going on. and shouldn't necessarily deter you. What you absolutely have to listen to is when you're all warmed up out on the court or the course playing and it starts hurting. You can give it the benefit of the doubt if you're just starting to play and it's not that much pain, if it diminishes to a whisper and stays there while you play. But if it's more than a little pain and it continues at that level or starts to worsen, you have to stop. Promise yourself in advance, if you go out there, that you will stop in that case. There are few things worse that you can do than to keep playing at that point. Okay, number 4, modulate your playing. Play less and so on. Whatever you do, if you're going to play through your recovery, modulate it. Don't just blast forward. You got to play less hard, play less often, play on alternate days. Take a week off if you need to, if it's really necessary, and so on. Always be thinking about that critical recovery time. I'm convinced it's more important for most tennis players and golfers with mild to moderate injuries to modulate their playing than to stop and rest for weeks or months on end, for a couple of reasons. First of all, as I stated earlier, tendon healing doesn't necessarily happen just happen while you're resting, hoping, and waiting. I can't tell you how many tennis players and golfers have walked through my clinic doors and told me they took 3 weeks, 6 weeks, or even 2 to 3 months off from playing, and when they started up again, their symptoms came right back with a vengeance. Time alone does not cure this wound. How you treat it over time and modulating your activities over time so as not to overly stress it, can heal it. The other thing is morale. In the scenario I just described, resting and waiting for a predetermined and possibly arbitrary period of time, and then discovering when you finally do start playing again that it hurts as much as ever, it can be really devastating to your morale. Whereas small successes and the ability to continue playing, even if there are some setbacks, can do a lot to maintain your morale and motivation. And it's just not realistic to expect perfect steady progress and symptoms that gradually fade over time like a ketchup stain on a white t-shirt. More often than not, it's going to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And if you're going to be dancing that 2-step dance of recovery, you might as well be doing it on the court, right? My patients who play through their recoveries are always so much happier, even with some setbacks. The key is to be disciplined about it. If you're going to play, warm up first, including doing some stretching and self-therapy. Play for a shorter duration, even if it feels fine. You really have no idea how it's going to feel tomorrow, do you? So don't push your luck. Don't play on consecutive days. If your elbow flares up a lot from playing one day, be sure to take extra time before you play again. Redouble your self-care. Again, always be thinking about your recovery time and be prepared to take a little more time for it. But at the same time, don't let your symptoms rule you. If you've taken a week or the better part of it off for recovery and your elbow is better but still a little cranky, don't let that stop you from testing it out. You can always stop playing if it really hurts like hell. Now we come to the most important rule. Number 5. Treat your tennis elbow right the rest of the time. If you do the right things to treat it off the court or course, you can get away with a lot more time on it. So how are you treating your injury? Are you playing it safe by following the common wisdom? Are you hedging your bets? Or are you going all in? If you're going to continue playing through your injury, then it makes no sense to play it safe and to hedge your bets off the court or the course. What I mean by that is following the common wisdom, doing things like icing and taking anti-inflammatories, wearing a brace, besides while playing, and getting cortisone shots, and so on. The so-called common wisdom, the mobilize and suppress approach, treats tennis elbow as if it were a problem of chronic inflammation. But despite the repeated admonitions of authorities, this is wrong. It's dead wrong. It's a 30 to 40 year debacle of failure. And if this is what you're doing when you're not playing, you'll be lucky if your injury doesn't get worse, in my opinion. The answer is not immobilization, it's strategic mobilization. Frequent, aggressive, when appropriate, soft tissue therapy on your muscles and tendons. Correct, safe stretching of your involved muscles, and the gradual, sometimes delayed, introduction of tennis elbow specific rehab exercises. All of which is what I teach here in the Tennis Elbow Classroom self-help program. I'm confident the more time you spend listening to these podcasts, reading my posts, and watching my videos, the more you'll understand why this is the logical, reasonable approach. And if you already do understand and agree, please don't hedge your bets. I sometimes have patients come in my office who say, "What you say makes perfect sense now that I think about it." And they come to see me for soft tissue therapy and they learn my techniques to do themselves, which is to choose to mobilize and encourage healing. But some will still hedge their bets by continuing to wear a brace, icing regularly, taking anti-inflammatories. This is the opposite approach, immobilizing and suppressing healing. Now, yeah, most will abandon this bipolar hedging approach not too long after, once they start making some progress with the addition of the soft tissue therapy. But the sooner you go all in, the sooner you get on a program of soft tissue therapy and you start mobilizing, and you stop immobilizing and suppressing your symptoms and healing process, the better. Again, tendons and tennis elbows, a tendon injury, they just don't automatically heal while you're resting, hoping, and waiting. You need to be treating, mobilizing, and encouraging healing in those tendons and muscles frequently while you're off the court or course. And then carefully testing out your progress, modulating your playing as necessary. As long as you're fairly healthy and you don't have too severe an injury, you should be able to heal and strengthen while continuing to play. Although once again, yeah, you'll probably make faster progress if you don't continue playing, and you should be clear about yourself about the trade-off. Now, if you do take time off from playing in order to give your injury the best chance to heal, when do you know when it's safe to start playing again? Well, first of all, I think it depends on whether you really needed to stop because your injury was so severe, or you decided to stop for a while because it seemed like the wisest choice, even though your injury wasn't that bad. So, after a more severe injury, then you want to wait until you're symptom-free for at least a month, I would say. You've made significant strength gains in your rehab. Chances are, if you've been battling a severe injury, your confidence is pretty low, and it's just not worth taking the risk of re-injury, is it? In that case, wait as long as you can stand it. And when all signs are positive, your strength is regained or it's better than ever, and the symptoms are gone, ease back into the game. Now, if you've stopped just to be cautious, even though your injury wasn't severe, there isn't as much riding on it, you can just test the water whenever you feel confident enough. Again, I think it's more important for most tennis players and golfers with mild to moderate injuries to modulate their playing than to stop and rest for weeks or months on end. So the question of when to start playing again in that case is not as critical to me as it may be from other perspectives. As long as you do your homework and get lots of soft tissue therapy, you warm up thoroughly and you ease into it and you modulate your playing. And, of course, you stop playing if it starts hurting. One of the advantages of continuing to play at a reduced frequency and duration is that it really can help motivate you, to follow your tennis elbow self-help program and do your soft tissue therapy, stretching, and exercises, to focus more on working on your technique and staying fit and conditioned. If you have to take time off, so be it. But if it's not strictly necessary, how motivated are you going to be sitting around doing your self-help program if you're not playing at all? Consider allowing yourself to keep playing if you can. That is my 2 cents. If you have a setback, it probably won't be a very big one if you're careful, but it will motivate you to work harder on your therapy and rehab exercise. Finally, here are a few more suggestions. Never play cold or in the cold. Warm up first with some cardio. Take a run, bike to the court, tennis players anyway, and really get your circulation going. Then do some stretching, and even better, some therapy on your muscles and tendons. Don't rely too heavily on braces and bands while playing. I'm opposed to braces and bands as a supposed first aid or a long-term aid to healing. See my posts and podcasts about that for more. But I'm not against temporarily wearing the strap or the counterforce type brace while playing as a form of protection. Just don't wear one around during the day or at night. Well, that's it for now. And if you're not already here, you'll find dozens more helpful podcasts as well as articles and videos at tenniselbowclassroom.com.